Hello and Merry Christmas from the British Sitcom History Podcast. My name is Alan. With me, as always, is Gareth.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas.
There you go. Yes, and it is a Christmas special. And so we're revisiting a show that we looked at recently. Time, Gentlemen, Please. The Al Murray vehicle.
So, Time, Gentlemen, Please, when we covered this in our last series, there were two series that were on Sky that Richard Herring sort of wrote them at a ferocious pace. And we talked about how he was sort of grabbing onto anything for ideas and themes. And one of those themes was, we can do a Christmas episode.
There's a Christmas episode that went out on Christmas Day. There's a New Year's episode. There was a bonfire night episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did it all. They hit everything they could, yeah. This was a Christmas special, and it is a proper Christmas special. I want to talk a little bit about Christmas specials in the sitcom world, because for me there's a definite delineation between a special that is set at Christmas, and is about Christmas and dealing with all the themes that comes with that we can all identify with, and just a special episode that they put out of series that happens to go out in the Christmas period
just because
the schedules are around
up. They need a big headline show to put on BBC One on Christmas Day. I'm looking at you, Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah, and this episode of this series was just part of the series that happened to be going out at Christmas. So in that sense, it's not a special. It's not a Christmas special. It's just a Christmas episode. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Time, Gentlemen, Please had the clout to be doing a feature-length special.
What about sitcoms that have an episode that is set at Christmas but not really about Christmas? I'm going to call it the Die Hard special.
Yeah. I think that's when you know it's going out around Christmas, so you have to acknowledge it, but you can't really be bothered to write it. So it's just like there's some tinsel in the background or something. Yeah. With the TV schedules in general in Britain anyway, they kind of get all messed up at Christmas. So if you're going out every Friday night at 9:30 p.m. or whatever, it's going to get messed up because it drops on Boxing Day and they've got the big film on or something like that. So you either have to embrace it or, well, what they do is not really put series that go over those dates.
Yeah, a lot of in the old days, the series would finish just before Christmas. The week before Christmas would be the final episode of the series, wouldn't it? So the schedules would work that way. So you'd have a whole special Christmas schedule with those one-off episodes and the films and all the Christmas telly, and then in the new year, new series would start. Yeah.
But that means you get these drop-in specials, like, 1 Foot in the Algarve or something like that is not set at Christmas at all. But feature-length specials. Yeah, Only Fools and Horses, they did feature-length specials but not Christmas-based ones. Although they have done Christmas-based episodes when they were doing the earlier series, which we talked about one of them in our episode.
Well, we met Del Boy's dad.
Yeah, so how do you feel about this? For my money, if you're doing a Christmas special, set it at Christmas. Stop messing about.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I think you've delineated clearly between the two types of Christmas special. I think there is room for that special, slightly longer, let's call it feature-length episode. Even if it's not Christmas related, I think it's still good that they exist. I don't know. Maybe I'm not really a Christmas guy. I'm not a massive fan of Christmas.
But that's why it's ripe for comedy fodder.
But also, look, we're going to get into this episode in a minute, right? And just for listeners, it's Series 1, Episode 16, Bar Humbug. But please spell bar B-A-R, because that's the joke, right? Bar Humbug. Without jumping ahead into this episode, there's a little bit where we touch on the Christmas Carol, Ebenezer Scrooge type story. And he undercuts it by saying, no, we all know the story, come on. Yeah. And that kind of made me think, yeah, if you're going to do a Christmas special, there aren't that many options for where are you going with this story? There are tropes that have all been done. We're talking about a bit of redemption, a miserable character, the Scrooge arc. We're talking about kids getting presents. We're talking about Christmas dinner. Yeah, there are all of the Christmassy tropes that we all know, and it's really difficult to do something original with.
Yeah, but it's also such a... Well, I was going to say universal theme, but certainly in terms of your intended audience, of a British viewing audience, Christmas is something that the vast majority of them are going to be able to relate to, even if you're not religious or anything like that. It's like that idea of all family coming together, the tensions that come from that, the crap telly, people wearing stupid paper hats, all that stuff that is kind of so identifiable for so many people. Like, there's so much there to play with.
I'm seeing a parallel here between, we talked before when we talk about the sitcom movies where, the cliche is it's on the buses on holiday. And maybe there's an element of that here, which is on the buses at Christmas. Time, gentlemen, please, at Christmas. And it's kind of, it's a different environment in which to see our favourite characters. But again, I think the same about the movies where we see the people on holiday. It's like, what are you actually going to do with this? There doesn't seem to be any original thought here.
Yeah, I suppose you can do one Christmas where the Trotters are stuck at home with each other and they're bored and the crackers are all crap or whatever. But then what do you do next year? Yeah, if you want to do another Christmas special, and perhaps let's just not do that many. That's okay. Yeah. Do it once, that's fine.
Yeah, so I think I'm coming out. I think I might be coming out against the Christmas episode here. I don't think it gives us anything new. It doesn't give us anything original in general. And I'm sure there are many exceptions to the rule. I'm sure there are some excellent examples, but it just feels a little bit well-trodden,
Yeah, I think that's probably true. It's interesting that I think, you could watch the Christmas episode of Till Death Us Do Part, and it's a family bickering around a turkey. And you would do the exact same thing with My Family in 2009 or, whatever's on now. I literally don't know any sitcoms that are on now. But you have ghosts bickering around a ghost turkey or whatever. Right?
So... Well, listen, I love Ghosts. We've talked about Ghosts before. It's my go-to example of a good modern sitcom. But you're right. I don't know if they have done a Christmas special, but that would be it. And I would say the same thing. Oh, God, we've seen this. It's just the same thing.
But is that a nice thing that some things don't change and that's...
Maybe. You're a man who loves nostalgia.
Well, let's not forget, we are brothers.
Let's not forget
that. We are... Our sort of Christmas experience and that whole idea of family Christmas is... We have a similar... we have a shared viewpoint here. Or a lot of it is, anyway.
I don't know where you're going with this, because I'm conscious that our mum listens to this.
Well, as you sort of have alluded to earlier, I don't think our family does it's not a big Christmas thing. We'll get together or sometimes or not, but
she's definitely not going to like that.
Well, I remember as kids, it was a big thing, as you expect. But as adults and you've got kids, our sister's got kids. You're doing it for them, and so a load of adults getting together, it's just an excuse to get together and see each other, and that's fine. But the Christmas element of it is very secondary. It's like none of us care about that.
I suppose you're right. And, if we're talking about bringing it back to sitcom, that excuse to get everyone in a room, you don't need that in a sitcom because that's the situation. We always have our people in a room. That's how we view them.
And in fact, and as we will see in this show that we're looking at now, sometimes it is quite a tortured experience to make them all be together. Because if it's not a family set sitcom, it's like a work set sitcom, it's not really natural for them all to be together on Christmas Day. So with that in mind, let's get into the episode.
Yeah, so we have the way we're going to do this. We've already covered Time, Gentlemen, Please. So if you want to hear our deep dive on that, go back and search for that on our YouTube page or on your podcatcher. So we're not going to talk in too much depth about the main cast and characters. There are some guest stars in this that we'll talk about, but generally speaking, we're just going to kind of go through the episode. So how do we start, Alan?
So we start. All the episodes start with a little sort of skit of him throwing someone out of the pub or whatever. So they put a little Christmassy twist on that. It's a
lovely bit of nativity shenanigans.
Yeah, heavily pregnant woman. And this is again, if we start to talk about the cliches of things you're going to hit for comedy fodder.
Number one,
a pregnant woman turning up out of the blue, going, "Oh, have you got anywhere for me to stay?"
But what I do like about this, at least it is actually an inn. There is no room at the inn.
And obviously just tells them to sod off. The guy goes, "Honestly, mate, I didn't touch her." Yeah, likely story.
Yeah, very good. And then we're straight into the next scene, which is inside the bar. And we've got some sort of establishing Christmassiness, haven't we?
Is there a bit of tinsel on the bar or something? They haven't made
There's a really crap, really rubbish Christmas tree. Very, very lame tinsel around the place. And Steve's got a Christmas hat on.
But I think that's in keeping with the pub landlord wouldn't really...
he wouldn't want to push the boat out.
He wouldn't commit to the Christmas thing. But yeah, the pub is still as empty as ever. It's just the regulars.
Well, it's more empty because the regulars aren't there. So Terry and the prof are both missing. But we've got the old man who's actually, he moves himself into Terry's seat. It's like without Terry and the prof there, he sort of moves up the social hierarchy of the pub and he gets into the good seat that Terry normally occupies. We've got Janet, our Australian barmaid, who is flirting with her boyfriend, Alex Lowe, incidentally. We'll talk about him in a second. Now, am I right in thinking that this character appeared in a previous episode? He's not brand new in this episode,
It was in the previous episode. So this is a hangover from the previous episode. Again, it's not really explained. Which is one thing we discussed when we talked about the series of how it became these overarching plots that they were using to create the narrative rather than trying to do these episodic ideas. We have quite a bit of that. And so, yeah, Alex Lowe's character was established in the previous episode in which he is a policeman they had the place bugged because there was drug dealing going on. But he used the information he heard because he fancied Janet. He found out information about her and used that to wile his way into her. Right, so we find
that out at the end of this episode. Sort of the punchline to the episode, one of the punchlines. And it kind of, if you haven't seen the previous episode, which I haven't, it doesn't really make sense, but I kind of got it. I got the gist.
Yeah. But in terms of the comedy of the situation, it's that, he's now going out with Janet and he sees Steve as a threat. Steve doesn't want Janet, but Steve doesn't like him either. Mm-hmm. It's this very sort of muddled love triangle that they have going on.
Yeah, tell me about Alex Lowe, because he's one of those people who has been in lots and lots of things once or twice. You know, he's a kind of guest star in lots of things, isn't he? He's one of those.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit more about Alex Lowe.
Well, that's about it, really. I mean, he's been buzzing around for 20 odd years, doing little one-off episodes. I think the most memorable thing he's ever done, at least to my viewing, is the episode of Phoenix Nights he's in, where he plays Clinton Baptiste.
That's right. That's where I know his face the medium.
From.
Debbie's been. You haven't you, love? You've been very poorly, and it's not been easy, has it? And it is terminal, isn't it?
No.
Which was like a year after this. So this is kind of very early in his TV career. It's like late 90s, 2000s where he started getting these bit parts, and then...
But he still tours. He still tours as Clinton Baptiste. You can go and see him live.
Yeah, so I don't know if that was an established character that he then.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that was written for that. I'm not sure if it was written for Phoenix Nights, but if you think if it was written for Phoenix Nights, this guy's just an actor. So who's actually writing the material for his live shows? Is he doing that? I don't know.
Hello, everyone. Editing Alan here. I looked into this a little bit further, and I listened to the commentary on that particular episode of Phoenix Nights. And the creatives there, Neil Fitzmaurice, Peter Kay, etc., they are talking about specific lines they wrote for that character, and there's no mention of it being a pre-existing character. Although they do also mention that Alex Lowe ad-libs a few lines, and he's obviously bringing a lot of character and physicality to that's not going to be on the page. So, don't think it was a pre-existing character, but obviously Alex Lowe has taken that on and made it his own. All right, back to the episode. The only sort of regular role that I could find in a sitcom was Fun at the Funeral Parlour, which was 2001-2, which I vaguely remember watching at the time. It's all Welsh, but I don't recall specific details about it. But that's the only thing that I could find that was really like, he's in basically most of the episodes of this, rather than just popping in for one or two. But yeah, very much a recognisable face, and like does a lot of sketch comedy as well, so you just sort of see him in things and. Yeah, and always a good presence. It's funny that he's never quite found a solid role.
But the character then, so we've got this undercover policeman who's a real spunk rat, which is...
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Which that struck me as that was a line written by someone who watched Neighbours in the late 80s. I remember at school talking to people in the playground about yesterday's Neighbours when someone said, "He's a real spank." That was absolutely scandalous material.
I said you had a beautiful body. Would you hold it against me?
If you said I had a beautiful body, I'd let you shag me.
And I'd say you need your eyes testing.
Wreck off, hamster nuts.
Would you like hospital food? I prefer Thai, if you're asking me out.
Which
That's a great line.
is a lovely Richard Herring line, that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is quite a nice Richard Herring style line. But what I really like about that is the setup for it is so unnatural. Like someone actually saying in real life, "Do you like hospital food, mate?" Especially that character who's not like being an aggressive dickhead man. It's just it doesn't work at all. But I think if anything, that's Richard Herring's writing. Tortured setup for a good punchline.
So now we get the arrival of the other regulars. The prof arrives first, and he's angry because he's got to spend Christmas Day with his overbearing mother.
Yeah, so that his sort of background is religious zealot mother. So obviously Christmas is a.
And have we come across her before?
She pops up a few times. Yes, I don't think this is the first time we've seen her. Yeah.
All right, so we'll come back to her because we're spoiling the episode here. We will see her later on. So yeah, the prof arrives, sits down, gets a drink, and then Terry arrives. With Phil Daniels arrives with great fanfare. He's dressed as Santa.
Now that is what I call a carol service. Lovely girl, that Carol. Way in the manger!
Classic gag alert. Mistletoe above the crotch. Kiss under the mistletoe.
Brilliant.
I wonder how many times that's been done because I can't think of very specific things, but I know I've seen it. I'm sure that I did that on Bottom.
Yeah.
Just any crass sitcom, they've done that.
Yeah, well, a crass character like Terry. And we talked when we did Time Gentlemen Please. I'm not a massive fan of Terry. I don't. He seems to be a very popular character, but I don't like it. It's a bit much. Now we get a little bit of foreshadowing here. We get a bit of a mention of the Gov's bullying mother,
which I don't think she's ever been mentioned before. So we better set this character up quickly because.
And the Gov says, "Fortunately, I take after my father." And the old man says, "Whoever that was."
Yeah, which is
a recurring joke,
a long-running plot, which they do eventually come to a conclusion on that one. But who is the Gov's dad? That's quite a nice. See, I quite like that as a running theme, as just his character background. Actually, this episode is real character background stuff.
Yes,
I think there's a lot of this is being established here on the fly to create this mother character.
Yeah. Do you think they keep a black book of Pub Landlord lore?
The Pub Landlord Bible.
Yeah. Next, we get Greg Thompson. We get a lovely appearance from Mark Bannerman as Greg Thompson,
pleasure.
The rival landlord.
Oh dear, Slops. Is that a weed on your bar? Oh, my mistake, it's your Christmas tree.
Laugh, everyone, at Mr. Thompson's witticism.
Personally, I've got a 50-footer. And my Christmas tree's pretty big and all. I'm implying I've got a massive cock.
A real hit and run scene.
Yeah,
get in, do your catchphrase, get out.
I really liked it.
Yeah. It is a fun character, and I think it is best used sparingly.
Yeah.
Like this. Although, actually, when they do involve him in plots, it generally works, and it's a nice little thing. So, I think we need to get into the actual meat of the episode, which is the mum story.
Yeah.
And it begins with a very, and I think deliberately weak handling of a phone call. We talked about this briefly, if you remember, on our Dear John episode, because John in that did a lot of talking to himself and a lot of one-sided conversations on the phone.
Yeah.
And we talked about how to do that well or not. I think Victor Meldrew always does it quite well. This is deliberately, I think, bad.
Hello? What? The home's burnt down? Oh, God, my mother, she's... Oh, bollocks, she's all right.
I would like to think that is knowingly bad.
Yes. So the phone call, it sets up. He's going to have to take care of his mother.
Yeah, so he's got his mum for Christmas. That's the setup.
But then he passes out.
He faints. So shocked as he is with this news. And that is deliberately bad because it's a classic wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, and which sets up your classic Christmas Carol parody. A Ghost of Christmas Past comes up. It's the oldest character, a regular character in the show. Obviously, they're the Christmas Past.
The old man.
Been done a million times. And to their credit, immediately call it out.
Yeah.
And the Gov just goes, yeah, we get it. All right, it's Christmas Carol. Come on, get on with it.
But they do completely undercut it because I thought this was going to be a whole they're going to do Christmas Carol, and they don't. We do the Ghost of Christmas Past, and that's it. Like we do see the Ghost of Christmas Present and Future, but we don't continue with the Christmas Carol theme.
The moral of the story is not him changing, like, or becoming like he's not the one who's the problem in this particular case. And I guess that's the idea. That's the undercut. You go, oh, we're going to show you Christmas from the past, and it turns out it's not your fault. It's your mother's fault.
Yeah, there's an element of redemption for the Gov here because we can see why he is like he is.
And we flash back to 1972. In this little sequence here, the Gov mentions that he's 32 years old. That means he was born in 1968. So, so all very specific dates here. Flashback to 1972. Gov's 4 years old. And we have Jenny Eclair as his mum.
Yes.
Should we talk about Jenny Eclair?
Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll come back and talk about these flashback sequences, and because we've got stuff to talk about there. Let's talk about Jenny Eclair.
We see her as younger here, then later on she turns up as his mum, and she's aged up a bit. But I want to ask you about Jenny Eclair, because you're a bit older of a generation that you might remember her, because I know Jenny Eclair is a stand-up comedian. Like, that is her sort of, or was her primary thing. I don't think I've ever seen her do stand-up. And she's certainly not someone who's still doing it 20 years later, you know?
No, but she did. She did. So the first thing I ever saw Jenny Eclair in was, in fact, there's a story here, because I went to see this being filmed. It was a program called Packet of Three.
Frank Skinner.
And it was Frank Skinner, Jenny Eclair, and Henry Normal. And the setup was, it was a theatre, the Crumpsall Pavilion, I think, if I'm remembering rightly. It was a theatre in Manchester. And we saw, it was like a variety show. So we saw the acts, and they would have a couple of comedians come in and do a 5-minute act. But then we also saw a sitcom element of the behind the scenes. And Frank Skinner played like the janitor of the theatre or something. And even though it was set in a Manchester theatre, it was actually filmed in the Wakefield Opera House, Theatre Royal,
really?
which is our local theatre. So I went to see 2 or 3 of these episodes being filmed when I was at school. And I just looked it up. It was 1991 it went out. So this was the first time I'd ever seen Frank Skinner. And he was like, he did the warm-up as well. He was brilliant. You know, you could clearly tell this guy is going to be big.
91, was that the year he won the Perrier, I think? He certainly wasn't exactly
it was. But if you were 15 and you only watched telly, I had no idea who was in Edinburgh.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
Henry Normal was a performance poet, and he went on to he's a writer, he's a producer. And he's a big figure in British comedy. But I'm not really a big fan of performance poetry. That's not really my thing. So I was kind of, he's all right. And Jenny Eclair was a stand-up. She didn't do stand-up in that, but she was kind of that outrageous female, that cliche back then in the late 80s, like Joe Brand, you know, where women who say the unsayable type thing. So that was her kind of the character that she portrayed.
Hey up, Jen, where you been?
I've been as sick as a pig all day, Frank. I chucked up this morning on my way to work. Fortunately, it was raining and most people had their umbrellas up. Still, I should have stopped my moped and apologised, really. Does my breath smell?
Better than usual.
It's all right for you. Being sick's your hobby, but I'm never sick.
But I was reading about her early career. It said she came through as a punk poet as well. So it was like a lot of that. But there is a real punk mentality to Jenny Eclair, actually. And she's the right age for that. You know, she was born in 1960. So yeah, a teenager in the late 70s, like that's punk era. Yeah. And it feels like she's got that mentality like right through everything she's done, where you kind of say the unsayable. Yeah,
she was always very chaotic. She was one of those people who would turn up on a chat show and you'd be, oh God, what's she gonna? You know, that was her, not her character. That was her demeanor.
But in a way that was controlled enough that it felt safe. You know, it's not like inviting Oliver Reed onto a chat show or something. You know, where you really don't know what could happen. I think that's quite a nice furrow to tread, being a kind of anarchic voice within the BBC's language rules. Sure. And again, I can't say I've seen that much of what she does, but I know more as a personality of Jenny Eclair rather than this is her stand-up. I think
you're right there. I think you're right.
Whatever.
She's a loose woman, isn't she? You know, she's that sort of
grumpy old
panelist, grumpy old woman. Yeah. So she's very good in that format. You know, she's very good at here's an opinion, I will deliver it in a funny way.
And she's also felt like, to me, and I don't quite know why this is, but like an elder stateswoman of comedy rather than.
Yeah.
And I guess she was not that much older than those of the kids that were coming through in the early 80s. She's same age as like the types of, your Rowan Atkinson or whatever. Jenny Eclair hasn't done much acting, and most of it is stuff like this, where she obviously knows the people involved, and they've just brought her in for it as a guest. She's written some novels as well, but I guess what I'm asking is like, how has she made a living for the last 30 years? Like, what exactly does she do?
If you ask me what does she do these days, I would probably say, I think she writes novels now. I think that's what she does.
And like the grumpy old women thing, that had a big life, and it had a theatrical life as well as on TV and all that stuff. And she was a big part of that. So maybe she's a bit more active behind the scenes as well. Like maybe she's got some producing kind of vibes going on. But and not everything people do are like that obviously visible, So it's just hard to judge. But yeah, if you just sort of look at her CV, you think, like what's the reputation? Because I feel like people still know who Jenny Eclair is.
Definitely, she's certainly a personality. She's certainly a person that we know. Okay, well let's go back into the episode and talk about these flashbacks. So there's a couple of quick scenes. Firstly, we see the pub landlord as a small child, and he sort of walks in on his mum, and she's got someone under the covers. It turns out that's Uncle Barry, but that's largely by the by. Then we have another scene. So the old man, as the ghost of Christmas past, says, "Oh, I've messed this one up. This is a bad example. Let's find another one." So we cut to another scene where the pub landlord, as a child, he's wearing his mum's clothes and he's putting makeup on. No, son, you're never confused. So we get a little bit of backstory on that. Then we get a third flashback. And then
we also get the running setup that his mother was sleeping with everyone.
Yeah.
So
sure.
So
Terry comes in. Is that Terry, or is that supposed to be Terry's dad?
No, it's supposed to be Terry. Yeah, I think he's just in his glam rock.
Yeah, so he's wearing this glam rock outfit because apparently it's the 1970s.
I love you, Mummy.
Well, I don't love you. Not after what you did to my Fanny.
I'll leave it, eh?
Oh, come on, Terence, a mouth, eh?
Oh, suppose so. I never thought of it like that before.
And she teaches him his catchphrase, which is a mouth's a mouth.
But that does feel like a very sort of Jenny Eclair type line, doesn't it? That kind of attitude, like that, just being really nasty to a child.
So third flashback, which is the pub landlord as a teenager, and he's dressed 1979. He's dressed in funeral clothes, and his dad's just died, and he's not happy because she's not come down for the funeral. And then we open the wardrobe, and there's the prof. So all of our regulars have had relations with the gov's mum.
Yes.
Now, so that's kind of we get these three scenes of flashback, if you like. But I think we've got a bit of a tangent coming here, because when I watched this episode, which is on YouTube, then
Al Murray's official YouTube, so it is like
it's official material. It's not just like some ropey copy. Now, in all three of those flashbacks, the young Gov is played by Al Murray in three different outfits.
And and that works with the tone of the comedy. It's obviously ridiculous. It's a 6'3" man playing a 4-year-old. He's it's got a high pitched voice, but it's in keeping with the comedy of what we see in the show.
But
it's all fine.
You sent me a different version, so tell us about this different version that you found.
Yes. So when I was watching it, when we watched this first time around, I didn't pick up on this, but the DVD version, these scenes, the same script and everything, but they have child actors playing the child Gov, and the same scenes, but filmed obviously completely differently.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, so you sent me this, so I watched them. So you've got exactly the same script. You've got a child actor playing Junior Gov, and then you've got the old man and the Gov as ghosts in the room observing. Whereas in the other version, Al Murray plays the child, and you've got this kind of crappy CGI of the Gov and the old man. Superimposed inside the room, which is obviously a solution to having Al Murray in it twice. So which came first?
Exactly. So what is it? I've looked into it a bit. I haven't found the answer. I'm a bit spoiler alert, I don't know. But here's some thoughts. Here's some things I've picked up on. Let's see if we can work something out. Okay. So they obviously wanted to film this in front of a studio audience, but they can't do that because they need Al Murray playing two different roles, himself and the younger version of himself, right? So what I think they've done is they filmed those sections previously with Al Murray in the costumes and everything. Not to mention there'd be a very quick costume change. So like they've filmed all that previously. And then in the live recording, they've played that to the studio audience and had the Gov and the old man talking over the top of it.
Which they filmed and then superimposed.
And the way it's filmed, it's very static.
Yeah.
Like it's just a still shot and it doesn't look that good. And it's because they know exactly where they're going to superimpose these people. So they need to keep a still camera and a nice little blank space in the corner where they can put them. And so when they disappear and the scenes carry on a little bit just to have a gag, that's when the camera starts moving.
Mm-hmm.
So just on a practical level, that's why it looks a bit crap.
So why have they filmed it again with another actor? They've obviously got those child actors in to do it.
So first thing I picked up on, the set is different.
Okay.
It's the same room and everything, but the little ornaments and lamp and stuff in the background to set the scene, totally different. Same in each sort of section of that filming block, if you know what I mean. Like the one with all the kids in, it's the same. But it's different. So it's not just they thought on the day, oh, let's do an alternate version and keep our options open. They have gone back at another date and so there's some problem that they've then gone, right, we need to fix that. So what is it?
How much longer later do you think? Because it's for the DVD version, is that?
Well, it's got to be within the filming block of the show. So it's got to be within a few. And they were only filming this stuff like a week ahead of it going out, you know? So it could have literally been in the next week's filming block. Like, oh, we need to change this.
But if something was so wrong with the original version, why did they put both out?
Exactly. So that's the second question is how have they both ended up out there? So obviously the one on the DVD, which is the one with the kids, is the sort of accepted version.
That's the one they want for posterity.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the one that went out.
Okay. So why has Al Murray on his YouTube page got
So
the
how has
other
Al
version?
Murray got a copy of the original one that he's put out? Did he get that at the time and he was only recently allowed to put it out for whatever legal reasons? I don't know why Al Murray has put all this stuff out on his YouTube channel anyway. Like, legally speaking, that seems like a weird thing that you don't see very often. But it's Sky, it's not the BBC. Was there some deal like you own the character and you're going to own the rights to this at a certain point? Does Sky just not care and they bought it for a cut price rate in the same way that Richard Herring, they bought the Fist of Fun rights so they could put it out on DVD, stuff like that. I don't know. I don't quite know what the situation with that. And it just seems a weird thing. But how come he's got a different version to what went out on the DVD? It's not as simple as like, oh, that scene's just been chopped out. The credits are changed as well. In the end credits, the two little boys are credited not appropriately. Right. So it must have been done at the time because Al Murray hasn't done that on his computer and changed the credits, you know? No. So what is that? It's weird, isn't it? What's going on?
Well, maybe last time when we put out the Time Gentlemen Please episode, we got some reaction on Twitter from Richard Herring. So maybe if he listens to this or Al Murray, then tell us, please. Yeah.
But I definitely think that the one with Al Murray as a child, as playing the children, is the one that was filmed on the day because we see the setup of I'm the Ghost of Christmas Past, and then we see them so superimposed, and then we see them at the end. And the costume is all consistent. Yeah. In the reshoots with the little children, the old man's costume, it's the same, but it's kind of wrapped around him differently. You can tell it's different.
Mate, this is
forensic analysis.
I've got to be honest. When we agreed to do this, I thought we were going to be in a little Christmas fun episode. This is what our listeners want. This forensic analysis of different versions on DVDs. This is what the people want.
Well, I don't normally get into this kind of detail, but it was just intriguing thing.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
But why? You don't do that. You don't refilm something just because, it didn't look that good. We didn't like it.
Not in this. No, because there's plenty in Time Gentlemen Please that looks a bit ropey.
Yeah, if you're going to start doing that. Plus, it's cost. You've got to get Jenny Eclair back in. You've got to get two child actors in with all the rigmarole that comes with that.
You've got to get the boot polish.
Yeah, so... I mean, I'm fascinated to know why. Because usually when something's different on the DVD, it's because of a music thing, music rights thing. But it's obviously not that. What is it?
Well, look, I mean, this is a, like I say, this is the sort of tangent that we exist for. I'm really sorry to our readers that we haven't got a solution to this, this problem that we've identified. But yeah, if anyone knows, or if anyone knows someone who knows, then put Alan out of his misery, please. Let's get back to our episode, shall we? So after this flashback, we go back to the pub, and again here we see the ghost of Christmas Present, which is Rebecca Front. Hello. And we see the ghost of Christmas Future, who is played by Leslie, the big fella, who, frankly, you should have seen this coming. Good joke.
So then we go into the traditional Christmas story of having to deal with one's relatives.
We have a tableau, a table.
Yes.
But is it me, or were they doing the Last Supper here? Like the way it's filmed with that table, there was a couple of times where I thought, "Oh, is this supposed to be a Last Supper?" But they never quite crystallize it.
No, I don't think so. I think obviously this is a common problem of your 3-wall sitcom, your stage set sitcom, in that you have to face the audience. So everyone sits around one side of the table. It's exactly the same problem that old Da Vinci had with the Last Supper.
When portraying the Last Supper, yeah. Can I have a table for 13, please? But one side with no seats against it. What?
Yeah.
I'm trying to run a restaurant here. What are you talking about?
So, I picked up on this particularly because Steve sits on the opposite side of the table with his back to the audience, but no one else does. There's a couple of the chairs there, as if Janet's going to sit there. She never sits down, etc.
That's because we need to see all the characters, except Steve, because he's meaningless.
But Steve sits there and then gets up and kind of storms off for some reason. And I think they were making a token effort to have someone sit there to make it less obvious that they're all sitting on one side of the table, and to make it look like, oh, look, they were going to sit there, but they've all run off.
Terry comes in and he's got a new scooter. Now, is that topical? Was this like in whenever this was made, everyone was getting scooters for Christmas?
I think it must have been. I would have put it later than this.
Because then there's a funny joke. He sort of scoots around the pub. Isn't this great? And then just goes, I'm bored of that now, and throws it away.
Great. That's just a classic kid on Christmas Day.
Exactly, yeah. But now we get the arrival in real life, in real time, of the Gov's mum, Jenny Clare. So yeah, like you say, she's aged up a little bit. She's in a wheelchair. She's basically a sexual predator. So she comes in with a young fella who's pushing her in. I don't know if he's her carer or whatever, but she's groping and assaulting him, which is establishing her character.
And she is just... I was just thinking of Nigel Farage. That's all I was thinking about.
Well, I think this is interesting. Like, we're not going to revisit here that we had a long discussion about the character of the Gov and how does it really work now when basically Nigel Farage has completely stolen his shtick? You know, in the late 90s, the pub landlord was a relic, a caricature, and now he's a member of the European Parliament, you know.
Well, since we recorded that, both of us have been to see Al Murray doing his latest stand-up gig as the pub landlord.
Yes.
So let's revisit it briefly. Okay. Because I saw it. I saw him at the Edinburgh Festival, in which he was doing 2 shows a day for 30 days.
Wow.
Like, ridiculous. And I didn't enjoy it particularly.
I wouldn't go that far. I did enjoy it.
I definitely... It's been a while since I watched just an hour of him doing his bit.
I would say I enjoyed it with a sense of nostalgia.
I feel like I enjoyed it because I was familiar with the character and I knew what he was doing. I trust that Al Murray is doing it correctly. I think if you'd never seen him before and you came to that as your first thing, it does not play at all. There was not enough of an undercut of it. If that character was 100% serious and thought all those things, it would be no different whatsoever. And I think that's a problem.
Interesting. Yeah.
You need to have the character himself undercut it in some way, and it didn't.
You don't think he did that enough?
No, I don't. And not to mention, there was about 20 minutes of material and like 40 minutes of just crowd work.
That's always been
his way. Which is fine. It's always been his way, but it's the same crowd work he was doing 20 years ago. It's the same bits, it's the same gags, and it's a bit... Come on. Like, I appreciate it's different every time because there's a different audience, but there's like 8 or 9 set bits he's doing. That he's picking from.
When you went to see him, did he have an old fella in the audience that he kept going back to? Old timer?
Yeah, a fat bloke he was throwing crisps at. married, a couple where he insinuated they were having an affair.
Yeah.
It's the same stuff he's been doing 20 years. And I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that because, you go see the Rolling Stones, you don't want to see the new material, right? But at the same time, it's out on DVD. I can watch it anytime I want. I don't know. And a character that could be topical and needs to be satirical, needs to be updated. You need to start doing stuff that's working on gender in a different way to the way it was 20 years ago. Because our cultural landscape of how we view gender has changed dramatically in 20 years. And the political spectrum has changed so much. Like you're saying, if that character is no longer a parody and it is just someone you could have interviewed on the news, then you need to acknowledge that or change it in some way. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
It's an interesting take. I think that, as I say, I enjoyed it with that sense of nostalgia. I didn't quite analyse it in the same way. But I say this to you a lot. I don't think you're wrong. I think you look at things deeper than I do. And then you tell me and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't enjoy it. No, but that's not true. I did enjoy it.
Is Al Murray's audience aging with him? Because
that's
other
me,
people who are watching this at 30 years old, there's people watching it now at 50 years old. Have they changed? Has that demographic changed?
Yeah, certainly.
People get more right wing as they get older. So how much of this is when we were young liberals laughing at it then? It was like, well, actually, the whole toilets thing is a mess, isn't it? I found it very interesting to watch that again, and I felt like it just does not work in the same way that it used to, and I don't know if that's something Al Murray's doing or if it's because the circumstances have changed.
Well, I thought what was interesting in this scene where we see his mum, the character's mum, she's basically him but worse. She's homophobic, she's racist, she talks about the gypsies, which she actually says, well, you can say what you like about Hitler, but some of his ideas were all right.
That was just, And I was wondering, like, how basic are we going to get with, like, we need to establish this character as a dickhead?
Yeah. Although, I'll be honest, that line, I didn't like that line, not because it was beyond the pale and you shouldn't say that, but because it wasn't funny. You got to do a take on, you got to do a twist on that line.
Well, the previous line, she goes, the problem with it, I don't like the gypsies, they should send them all home. And the pub landlord goes, you haven't really thought that one through, have you? Like, the joke, that's the joke. And the pub landlord is undercutting that. That's satire.
So, right? Yes, that was the point I was going to make, which was the mother character is the pub landlord without the wink to camera, without the self-awareness.
But it is in itself such a ridiculous caricature performance that we all kind of, at least, we're all happy to laugh at it and it's okay.
Yes.
But rather than it being a bit kind of edgy and awkward to listen to.
Yeah.
And Jenny Eclair doing a fine job. That's great casting for that character, isn't it? Like,
yes.
Jenny Eclair, by the way, first woman to win the Perrier Award as a solo act.
What year was that?
1995.
95. Okay, well that's interesting. So I've said Packet of Three was 91. So there you go. She was
obviously
doing stand up in 95.
How old is the Gov's mum?
I don't know. She's in an old folks' home, isn't she?
And they refer to her as an old lady. When we see Prof's mum later on, that sees they were at school together. The actor playing the Prof's mum is in her late 70s. So let's assume she's supposed to be 70s at least.
Yeah.
But the Gov is 32.
Okay.
And in 1972, she looks like Jenny Eclair. So, like, what's the deal here? What's going on?
Once again, this level of forensic analysis is what our listeners are here for.
But I think the Gov's mum should be like 55. I don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. But I think the Gov as a character, well, they've blown it all by bringing dates into those flashbacks, haven't they? Because I think the Gov is probably supposed to be older than Al Murray was at the time.
But he's not. He specifically said what his
age. They've dated it. They've rooted it in time, yeah. Can we get back to the Christmas dinner table?
Oh, yeah, go on.
So the Gov has a go at the old man. The old man wants to say a little prayer, and he says, stop bringing religion into Christmas. It's disgusting. Then we get again people coming in on stage. So Vicky from the brewery arrives, Rebecca Front, who we saw briefly as that Ghost of Christmas Present, but now she's coming in character. And so the little skit that we have here is that Vicky comes in as if it's a normal work day and she can't get hold of anyone on the phone and what's going on here, and she doesn't realise it's Christmas Day, and then they invite her for Christmas. Are we? What's this? Is she forgetful, or is she just completely work motivated and doesn't realise at Christmas, or is this a ruse from Vicky because she's got no one to spend Christmas with? And both of those explanations are a good character development, but it's not clear which one it is.
Exactly. Yes. Are pubs open on Christmas Day? I don't go to pubs.
Yeah, pubs are open on Christmas Day. They're open for a couple of hours. Traditionally, and I stress traditionally, in the olden days, the men would go and get drunk while the women cooked Christmas dinner. That was a thing. I remember that being a thing when I first met my wife back in the late 90s. The first Christmas I went to her family's house, I was taken with my father-in-law to the pub, and he got me drunk as we went back for Christmas dinner.
I'm sure that ended well. It just seems really depressing. I mean,
yeah.
As someone who is going to spend this Christmas at home alone, I would not even dream of going to a pub.
Hang on a second. Well, you just told everybody we're brothers, and now you're giving it the home alone thing. This is your choice.
Well, you're going to be home alone on Christmas Day as well, so let's not start throwing stones.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Shall we get back to... So, we're back at Christmas dinner. The joy of Christmas dinner in the pub. Our final character arrives, Edna Dore, who is the prof's mum, who comes in and she's sort of dressed in the Salvation Army outfit. You know, she's the fundamentalist Christian. Mm-hmm. Now, before we talk about the character and the scene, Edna Dore, has she been in this before? Is this a one-off? Is this just one appearance?
She's in about 4 or 5 episodes. Yeah, just pops up here and there as the prof's mum.
Now I know Edna Dore as an old lady. Like she was always in the 90s. She always popped up as someone's mom or someone's grandma.
Yeah.
What's her background? Had she been an actor as a younger woman?
Yes, but just one of those people who found fame playing an older woman, basically. Okay. Yeah, very much so. And I had a little look at her CV, and
she
was in EastEnders for a couple of years. Yeah, that was in the late 80s.
Been when I was watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But she obviously was pretty old then. And her only kind of regular, loads of just one-off appearances and, sitcom here, there, everywhere.
Yeah.
Her one regular thing was a few years after this, Eyes Down.
Bingo,
with Paul O'Grady as like a guy who runs the bingo hall.
Rings a bell, yes. I
Neil
never
Fitzmaurice was in it, post Phoenix Nights. That was like a thing his did.
Uh-huh.
And Sheridan Smith, is she in it?
Okay.
I think I'm sort of winging this off the top of my head, I think. So 2006, 7, something like that. But I remember watching that at the time, and it was fine. It was all right. It didn't last very long, but it was solid.
So presumably Edna Dore played one of the old girls playing bingo.
I guess so. Yeah, she was definitely a regular character, and I'd like to watch that again. Actually, we'll see. So we have the prof's mum. She comes in. She castigates the prof. She makes him paddle himself with what is quite clearly a chopping board.
Can I listen? I'm no expert, but I don't think he does a very good job of the paddling.
It's a very weak bit of paddling.
It's very poor self-paddling.
And it's not even he's deliberately not doing it because he's trying to... It feels just like bad paddle acting.
It's very poor paddle acting. That is exactly what it is, yes.
It is poor.
I think you can simulate auto-paddling much better than that.
And, of course, a classic comedy bit, an uptight old lady swearing.
Oh, it is a classic. It's a grade 1 F-bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then they end up having a little bit of a scrap. But then the gov snaps, he breaks, and he shouts at everyone, settle down, sit down, we're going to enjoy Christmas. He stands up to his mother, and he makes everyone sit down, and they have to, we are going to enjoy this Christmas. And then the denouement, if you will, of this episode is a fart joke, which is bang on brand.
Yeah, yeah. I do like that the credits roll over an awkward silence over Christmas dinner. That's your Christmas right there. Boom. Traditional family Christmas. Did you notice that there was a banner in the background that said Merry Christmas, but the letters were all made up of like fonts of beer
I
logos?
did not. That's a really good detail.
Which I think is like a celebrations touch, because celebrations are made up of, the word is made up of all things. I think they're just doing that with beer.
Very good. I bet Time Gentleman predates celebrations. I'd be interested to know how old celebrations are, because I remember celebrations being launched.
I do as well, but
and finding
scooters coming in.
An abomination. An abomination of celebrations, Tub.
You got Quality Street or nothing.
Yeah. If you want a bounty, if you want a Mars bar, buy a Mars bar. Fun size if you must. Any smaller than that is freakish. Not be tolerated.
These are your hard opinions that we've come for.
Yes, this is the hard talk. Yeah. So, Time Gentleman Please finishes with a fart joke, and that feels to me very appropriate. I did quite enjoy this episode. You know, we picked it apart a little bit, but it was good fun. It was good enough fun, and it was a good way for me to start my Christmas celebrations.
I mean, that's what we said when we talked about Time Gentleman Please. It was funny. We enjoyed it. We enjoyed the characters for the large part. It's a bit chaotic, you know. There's several elements here that pop in, do a catchphrase, pop out. A hangover from the previous episode. We never see Alex Lowe again. It's not like that goes anywhere. It's just this 2-episode arc, kind of messy, but it's just a setup to do a couple of gags. That's fine. Yeah. And the actual plot bit, which is the Christmas Carol meta, we're not actually doing Christmas Carol. Backstory: the mum. The mum's a horrible person. That's fine. I think you could get a 23-minute episode out of that. They went for 10 minutes instead and had about everything else, but that's all right. It's just gags. It's all right.
Yeah. I think it sort of emphasizes to me that Time Gentleman Please it's kind of sketchy. It's written, Richard Herring writes a lot of sketches, and it sort of feels that way. It's almost like the Fast Show where you get the same sketches every week. There's an element of that to it. There's a bit of plot.
This is largely what we said in our previous episode, but it's a testament to Richard Herring's writing, I guess, or charm in some way, that he can do the same gags over and over again, and it works, and it's funny, and it's charming, and you enjoy it for what it is.
But it's like the Fast Show, isn't it? You know, when the Fast Show came out, they'd taken this sketch comedy to its extreme, and you know, clicking through these sketches, quick, next one. The criticism leveled at the Fast Show was, it's the same bloody thing every week. But it worked. It was very popular.
But yeah, that's the thing. Are we saying they do the same gag every week? It's the same punchline every week. But the fun bit is how you get there. What's the setup?
Exactly right.
I'm implying I've got a massive cock, but what am I comparing it to this week? That's the joke.
Yes.
And how tortured and how
you see it coming.
Drawn out
Yeah,
can
exactly.
it get. Yeah. Very nice stuff.
So I hope that our listeners, this has got them into the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
New series will be following very soon in the new year.
Yeah. It's underway.
I hope that our listeners have a Merry Christmas and get to spend it alone watching sitcoms like us.
Just go to the pub.